I'm here today at what might be the most incredible cactus shop you can possibly imagine. This place is called Cactus Talk, and as you can see behind me, it's truly organised chaos. There are plants of all sorts here. Towering, fantastic columnar cacti, tiny, tiny little succulents, and every single thing you can possibly imagine in between. And they're all just mixed all amongst each other. I'm so excited to check this place out. It's also surrounded by gardens. It's a really appealing, very attractive place. And my hope today in exploring this place is I might well walk home finding a treasure. Now, before we start digging through every little nook and cranny that this place has to offer, it's well worth pointing out this place is about 40 minutes or so south of Sydney in a little historical town called Bulli. Not really the sort of place that I might typically associate with an incredibly varied collection of amazing cacti, both common and rare. But I suppose that's the joyful thing about this place. Everything about it seems surprising, and I have no doubts that when we start to pick through all of these different plants, we're going to see some things that are genuinely unexpected. So let's not delay. I'm going to take you on a bit of a walking tour and inspect as many of these really interesting plants as we can possibly look at, and if I'm lucky, I'll go home with something to show for it. Let's check it out. The big question, of course, at a place like this is where on earth do you start? And so I've just picked a corner, and we're going to go for a bit of a wander, explore all the delights that Cactus Talk has to offer, and if we're lucky, there might be a plant or two that speaks to me and I can take something home and add it to the collection. What have we got? Plenty of beautiful Trichocereus, Pachycereus marginatus. This is your Mexican fence posts. I believe they've just got a few of these in stock, which might be worth looking at. And speaking of Mexican fence posts, here's one that's just about to flower. Look at this. The ants are all getting in. I'm sure that they play probably quite a significant role in the pollination of these plants, just waiting for a feast. They might have gone off a little bit early. This place has just got everything. Like, it's coordinated chaos, and so it makes it very hard for me to get a sense of what I want to look at. Look at this huge clump of euphorbia. Beautiful plant. That's 200 bucks. Not bad. And this has caught my eye. Beautiful cordiciform. This is Jatropha podagrica, and you can see it's in flower right now. This one's not for sale. If it was for sale, I'd think about buying it. But beautiful specimen of a beautiful plant. Had one many, many years ago, and I killed the thing, and now I mourn for its loss and would love to get another one. Another Mexican fence post on the verge of flowering. And there's not just big statement plants, there's little things. Have a look, I'll see if I can sneak in here. Little Haworthia, looks like Haworthia cooperi, and the way that it catches the light, truly stunning. Absolutely beautiful plant. And then amidst everything, I've just completely overlooked this. This here is Myrtillocactus geometricus, but it's not the usual form, it's a monstrose form. It goes by the cultivar name Gummy, and how that monstrosity expresses itself is in sort of these pseudo crests. You can see them forming here and here. This is probably the largest of this particular cultivar of this plant that I've ever seen in my life. And you can tell it's springtime.
All right, you good? Yeah.
There's Some new little growths just starting to pop up. Fantastic. Trichocereus spacianus, a stump with heaps of heads coming out. A lot of these plants don't have prices. Oh, hang on, maybe they do. Let me just brave. What's that say? 95 bucks. You've got common plants. Like I believe this is Mammillaria vetula, and you can find this just everywhere in nurseries all over the place. But then alongside them, you've got things like this fantastic Pachypodium lemmerii. Big multi-headed one. You can see one of the heads has been lost to rot at some point, but these things are super resilient. Losing a head hasn't knocked this thing about at all. Really quite incredible. All right, let's keep looking around. See what else emerges from the chaos. Another Pachypodium lemmerii just here, multi-headed thing. And then you've got a smaller gummy myrtillo cactus. You can see this one's got a price tag on it too, 155 bucks, not bad. Now I think part of the joy of the chaos of this place is just how you've got these enormous specimen plants, these towering columns. Look at that Aluaudia just climbing up over everything. And then hidden amongst them, all these magnificent, but still nonetheless quite mature little globose things, little miniatures. We've got some Millocactus, some Mammillarias. Look at this little Astrophyta mysterious in here. All of them looking super healthy. Even, I guess this is some kind of Echeveria. Nothing's really labelled, so a bit of guesswork going on. Here we go. Euphorbia ferox, massive clump. This is, of course, is a southern African plant, not too distantly related to Euphorbia obesa, except this is just about the biggest clump of this I've ever seen in my life. A really lovely peyote down here, just for 40 bucks. You'll see there's plenty of peyotes all over the place, all different sizes. Speaking of, here's another one. But then, if you're more of an astrophytum kind of person, get a load of these things. Humongous, absolutely sensational. There's another one just around here. This one's got a label on it, 10 years old, 150 bucks. It doesn't surprise me at all. It's a really impressive and quite beautiful plant. Agaves, we've got an agave here, maybe Titanota, not 100% sure. Right next to a beautiful sun-drenched clump of Lophophora williamsii, another peyote. Get a load of this one, little Mammillaria going dichotomous, 2 heads. That'll be really interesting to see how that one goes over time. Stenocactus. Sometimes these things get called brain cacti because of the interesting wavy ribs that they produce. Have a look at these. Little Haworthiopsis copping some full blasting afternoon sun, and their colours, the stress colours reflecting that. It's a really fantastic, beautiful choice for this particular plant. This is a really interesting one. This is a plant called Deuteraconia brevifolia. Recently I had a video about rare plants that I would never own, and this wasn't one of them. But one of the plants in that video was a really interesting cushion forming plant. And this is too. A lot of people in the comments were suggesting I should check this out as an alternative. I don't think I've ever seen one of these things for sale before, so real interesting. And you can see that cushion form, hundreds and hundreds of tiny little heads all emerging from, I suppose, a central body. offers it a degree of protection from the elements, from the harsh habitat that it grows in. And then look at this. Look at this. Kumara plicatellus, your fan aloe. No longer an aloe, not recognised as an aloe, but these amazing disticus leaves. Perfect time of year to visit. As you can see, those flowers, really stunning. This makes for an amazing landscaping plant. Have a look at that. This thing must be pretty old. Really, really impressive. Here's a real stunner. This is a Euphorbia flanaganii. Currently in flower. You can see those reduced Euphorbia flowers. Very, very little, but I suppose amongst the world of euphorbias, these flowers are relatively impressive. At least you can tell that they're flowers. Sometimes mistaken for another species called Euphorbia caput medusae. They're medusoid euphorbias. What that means is that from that central point, I guess like a medusa's head, you've got all these long tendrils, a little bit like the snakes of the mythical Medusa. The main difference, the easiest way to tell these two plants apart, is in the flowers. Flanaganii has got these yellow flowers, and caput medusae has got more of a light creamy white colour. So often difficult to tell apart the wrong time of year, but very simple when I can see the flowers right here before me. Anyway, let's keep looking. Look at that. Massive golden barrel. How good. And then right here, we've got an aluaudia. Not a cactus. This is a succulent plant from Madagascar. Probably Aluaudia procara. Not 100% sure. Really interesting thing about these is they've got these very spiny stems and then these succulent to semi-succulent leaves. And when it goes dormant, it'll actually drop a lot of those leaves, and then they regrow from the stem. Fairly atypical way of growing. Really, really beautiful though. Aloes, crested plants, more astrophytums, big euphorbias, huge parodia, really fantastic, many, many heads. This thing will have great flowers when it gets going. And then here, look at this, Pachycereus pringli. This will grow into the largest cactus in the world if you give it enough time and space. Super huge things coming from the southwest. And then, amongst it all, another Mexican fence post. Bigger this time, more impressive. That'll look pretty stately in a landscape. And then, behind that, you've got Euphorbia amac variegata, and it's just loaded with seed pods. This thing is ready to blow. Fantastic. Again, really impressive landscape specimens. Along the front of the shop here, I'll just take a step back. You can just see the diversity of all those columns. Really, really characterful, all sorts of different things, a mix of euphorbias amongst the cacti. And you've got these cleistocactus that have got flowers on them. Fantastic. Tubular pink flower is really quite stunning and quite unique to your cleistocactus. Pelosocerius with this thick, very, very heavy blue Glaucus farina. Real stunning contrast against all these green plants. And I suppose the yellows of the euphorbia there. What I love about this place, and I talk about the chaos of it, just the character. We've got old Converse shoes used as planters. What's growing out of that? It's like, could be a monkey tail or something. Can't quite tell from this side. But yeah, it's just a real conglomeration of stunning and very varied plants, I suppose. Have a look at this. Crested euphorbia. I think this is Euphorbia quibabensis or something like that. Top of my head, I'm not 100% sure of the name. But not only is it huge, it's just super strange looking, real mutant looking thing. This is the sort of thing that grabs my attention when I come looking for plants. Don't see something like this in a nursery all too often, and certainly not at a size like this. Immaculate. I'll go inside there in a minute, but let's just keep exploring out the front, shall we? I'm going to draw your attention to this monster cleistocactus. I mean, big furry columnar stems topped with all these fantastic flowers. Look at the size of the pot that it's in. It's an absolute beast. Real statement plant. And then, how good's this? Little Euphorbia horrida, again, in an old Vans shoe. I love the way that the pups are just emerging. This one's in flower as well. We could do some fantastic cross-pollination around this place. I'll tell you what, these are male flowers. You can tell because they've got pollen on them. You can see the little yellow dots. And then right next door, we've got Euphorbia mammillaris variegata, this one here. And it's got some female flowers at the very top. And they're two plants that would cross-pollinate. Why not give it a crack, I reckon? Should have brought my paintbrush. Pilosocereus plants here, towering up to the sky. And you can see those unique flower buds of your Pilosocereus forming. They're not quite ready yet, but they will be pretty soon. Have a look at this, Euphorbia japonica. Now I've got this plant in my collection. It's a hybrid between your Euphorbia Susannae and your Euphorbia buplerifolia. Only 55 bucks for this particular plant, and it's an absolute beast. It is far larger than the one that I have at home. Tempting, very, very tempting, despite the fact that it's not unique necessarily. And then look at this monster, 550 bucks at the other end of the scale. Have a look at how it compares, the size of my hand, my fist against that. That's an absolute whopper. Some sort of magnificent cutting of a Trichocereus, maybe terschekii or something like that. Amazing. And there's this aloe behind it. No idea what this is. Don't know my aloes quite well enough to be able to identify this on the spot. And as I've said, this isn't really the kind of place that leans heavily on labels. And so it's a bit of guesswork. I'm sure if I ask Callan, the owner, he could probably give me a bit more information, but I'm just reveling in the chaos of it all. I think a lot of nurseries, they sort of develop their character through order. You know, put these plants all together, categorize them, find them easily. This place, on the other hand, it gets its sense of character just from the sheer variety, the sheer mix, and that overwhelming sense of difference. You know, we've got these amazing columnar plants here. All of these things would all look amazing in a landscape. We've got Trichocereus scopulicolas and some Oreocereus, like I said, some Pilosocereus on the verge of flowering, Pachycereus marginatus, your Mexican fence posts, and then, sneaky, just in amongst it all, for seemingly no particular reason, little tiny Euphorbia flanaganii, just hidden amongst it. An Echeveria in the shadows as well, tiny little aloe hybrid. Why not, I say, why not? Good Lord. Look at this Echeveria. I don't know my Echeverias all that well, But I've been doing a little bit of research on them lately. And this, I believe, is a hybrid. It may not be a specific one, but there is a hybrid that's very similar to this called Echeveria bumps, the cultivar name, so named for those crenulated, warty, almost, I don't know, cancerous looking leaves. I'm not much on Echeverias ordinarily, but this thing is fantastic. It doesn't have a price tag. I wonder if it's for sale. I'll have to find out. Huge Pachypodium lemuriis. Random cuttings all along the wall here. Bunch of different things. Whoa. Have a look at this. Look at this. This is Trichocereus scopulicola. Just the size of that cutting in relation to my hand. That's an absolute beast. That would look fantastic. And you can see some that have been potted up just over here. What's that? That's some sort of mutant Trichocereus, some sort of monstrose form. You can see the ribs just kind of melty, emerging. I'm not exactly sure what strand of tricho that is, but it's pretty cool. If you're enjoying the show and you want to support Aridzine, check out the cool merch like this rad t-shirt, and there's also a Patreon which has got bonus videos that come out every single week. You can see the website on the bottom of the screen there, but let's keep checking out the amazing eclectic collection here at Cactus Talk. The thing that I love about this place is the vibe, right? You can see this is Cactus Talk here. Right now I'm standing in the car park, and as I continue turning around, you can just see the whole place has been planted out with these incredible specimen plants. Have a look at this. How cool is that? Forklift, old rusted out forklift, just absolutely loaded up with some of the most impressive plants, be they columnar or getting a little bit closer, these tiny little members of the Crassulaceae family. Little, I suppose these are sedums, some little crassulas in here, and then why not more peyotes all over the place. Absolutely fantastic. Big euphorbias. Look at this one. This one's in flower as well. I just can't help but dig around and find stranger and more wonderful things wherever you turn. This one here, I suspect, is a Stetsonia carine. I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly. It goes by the common name toothpick cactus, and it's famed for having the longest spines of any of the cacti. And you can see here, tell you what, wouldn't want to impale myself on that bad boy. That would not be an enjoyable experience whatsoever. Let's have a look around here. Very glaucous blue Trichocereus. I'm assuming this is Peruvianus of some description. And then you've just got these gardens, and I'm going to explore them in a little bit more detail, but they're loaded with all sorts of things. I would ordinarily say that I'm an advocate for careful planting, a philosophy that I suppose aims to maximise your plant health. This, on the other hand, and it's not wrong, but it certainly just goes the other way, where there's just plants of all different shapes and sizes, of all sorts of different backgrounds, from all sorts of different parts of the world, just interspersed. You've got African euphorbias up against sort of Central American agaves. We've got some little haworthias that prefer to grow in the winter, and then all these plants that are summer growing, tall ones, low ones, agaves. This is what, your agave Victoria reginae, aloes from Africa, a little bit overrun with weeds, but that's okay. This is your classic fishbone cactus, epiphytic thing. Don't even know where it starts, just growing all over this part of the wall. And then you've got some Solenocerius grandiflorus growing up alongside it. They're epiphytic jungle cacti, and then amongst them you've got all these arid things, your Pachycereus marginatus, which are fairly ubiquitous here. This is a Euphorbia resinifera, I believe. Comes from Morocco, and noted for being one of the hottest substances. If you're stupid enough to stick this plant in your mouth, you are just going to be in for a world of pain. Why you'd want to eat a Euphorbia, I can't really say, but you know, worth pointing out, I suppose. And then we've got all these sedums and echeverias and all sorts of things. Now, it's not all necessarily the healthiest, but I suppose there's a bit of a survival of the fittest approach to things in these garden beds. Plant en masse and see what lives and what dies. And that hard-grown attitude speaks to me. I love seeing plants that will just cope. They're the ones that are most attractive to grow. This, I'm told, is a newer garden bed, and you can see that typical plant it and see what happens really exemplified here. I mean, here, for example, you've got Cereus forbesii spiralis, a cutting, and that's that mutant form that grows with a twisted corkscrewing form. Really fascinating. When it gets big enough, that's going to be an amazing landscape plant. And then, not too far from it, not only have we got echeverias and euphorbias of all sorts of different things, but get a load of this. Just a massive, massive peyote clump. I think it's on a graft. You don't often see that sort of thing planted in the ground. Just seeing how it goes. Gymnocalyciums. Oh, have a look at this. What a survivor. Talk about survival of the fittest. Here we've got Perodia magnifica. And look at this old, corked, almost desiccated looking stump. And out of it, these huge, chewed up heads. Absolutely fantastic. That's a plant that's had a long, hard life and really showing its character. Really, really incredible. Oh, Jesus. Better not back into this thing. That won't be fun for anyone. Look at this. This is a really interesting plant. Doesn't look like a lot of euphorbias. This is a plant called Euphorbia stenoclada. Looks like the winter has not been too kind to it. It's got a few dead branches, but I'm sure as the spring kicks into gear, it's going to start to thrive. Magnificent. All right, let's go inside and see what wonders await. Very prominent golden barrel just here, flanked by peyotes. And then I was talking about that spiralis before. You can see a more mature specimen here, really starting to get into that spiral groove. They're really amazing plants. A very surprising mutation. Interesting thing about these is that they actually grow from seed. I've got some at home, and they maintain that spiral form. It's fairly atypical of monstrose plants. Shows just how strong genetically that, I suppose, altered form is. Anyway, there's some other really interesting things. I've got a whole shelf here of different species of Astrophytum. Astrophytum myriostigmas here. some much larger ones. These ones you can see developing some flower buds. They'll be out in bloom very, very soon. And then over here we've got some very large Astrophyta mysterious. Now this is your Super Kabuto form, noted for the flecking. And then over here, this is the what's called the nudum form, which, as you can see, nudum as in it's got that bare green epidermis. Breeding different astrophytums is an obsession within itself. Really fascinating process, how master breeders have been able to bring out all these different forms and patterns and, in some instances, shapes. Top shelf, and as they should be, we've got a whole variety of different euphorbias. And then in amongst them, little monstrose totem pole cactus. This is Lophocereus schottii. And then for those of you who are into lithops, look at that. Look at how many heads are on this plant. Amazing. That must be very, very old indeed. 65 bucks. Absolute bargain. And then, I suppose, a little variety of oddities. What's this? I think this might be Turbinicarpus. Not 100% sure. If you're a Turbinicarpus expert, please let me know. Now over here, on this shelf, just again, it's a real mishmash of stuff. I can't get over just how many different things. And look at the pots they're in. Fantastic variety. Here we've got Euphorbia polygonus snowflake with that super thick dusky farina. This one again in flower. The flowers put on a real bold contrast against the white, thick, waxy farina. It's quite stunning at this time of year. And then just casually lurking beside it, we have this enormous clump of peyote. And then beside that, another little peyote, but this one, happily, is in bloom. How delightful. I'm going to assume that this plant here is not for sale, but this is an absolute beast. Copiopoa hasseltoniana, really weathered, aged. This plant is old, well loved, and enormous. And you can see it's got all these new pups just forming. Grows in habitat in South America in the Andes. Very collectible plants, very slow growing. So a plant of this size would naturally be worth a lot of money. Stunning. There you go. Your classic Fukuroku Ryuzin Boku. That's your Myrtillocactus geometrizans, often known as the blue booby cactus. Favourite amongst collectors. Monstrose form of Myrtillocactus, alongside that other monstrose form, the gummy here. And then down here, huge big mammillaria. It's in flower at the moment. You can see with most of your mammillarias, they kind of get a crown of flowers that sort of encircle the apex of the plant. Up on this shelf, we've got surprising variety. We've got a crested plant here, and ferrocactus. Little Pilosocereus. But then behind it, this is a plant that speaks to my love of the weird and the vicious. This is an Aluaudia montagnacii. Very similar to that Procara we looked at before, but in this case, those little succulent leaves are far smaller and the spines far larger. And the end result is this very deadly, almost violent looking shrub. You can imagine walking through the Madagascan forests and bumping up into one of these. Sensational. How sharp is it? Yep, that's sharp. That's absolutely sharp. Little Madagascan euphorbia here. Ducarii, big clump. This one grows with rhizomes. It just kind of of spreads out into an ever-increasing mat. Quite stunning. And then up here, the ever-popular monkey's tail. This blue one's cool. This, I believe, is a Cepocereus bradii, South American columnar cactus. Very rarely seen in cultivation, but they have that really incredible blue colour. That blue on a lot of these cacti is actually what's called a farina. I've used that word a few times today. That's a thick, waxy coating that protects the plants from the elements. And in some plants it expresses itself in different colours. You can have kind of thick greenish farinas, bluish as in this case, or in the most incredible example you've got a real thick kind of white colour. And you do find it on cacti, but you also find it on plants like echeverias and euphorbias, so it's not unique. It's an example, I suppose, of that convergent evolution where different plant species from very different families have arrived at the same protective measures. Quite stunning, really good example of it. And then, just to cap it all off, here's something that I've never actually seen for sale in my life. This is a species of oxalis. Now, we might be most familiar with our oxalis as being kind of clover-like weeds that grow from bulbs in the backyard, but it doesn't have to be that way. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an oxalis expert, but I believe this might be an oxalis gigantea. And you can see in this instance here, rather than growing from a bulbous base, it grows from tall woody stems, a favourite of some cordiciform growers, although I'm not sure I would explicitly describe this as a cordiciform plant. It's certainly very interesting and extremely atypical of a sort of plant that you would find in most nurseries. And I suppose that exemplifies what's surprising and unique about this place. There is just so many different things, and no matter where you look, you can find an incredible plant to suit almost every single taste. I'm here with Callum from Cactus Talk. You own the place. It's a pretty eclectic kind of space. How long have you been here for?
I've been here for almost 8 years now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, coming up to 8 years.
And all the work around the garden and everything, that's all yours as well?
Yep. These are all kind of my babies in a way.
Yeah.
I've just gone pretty crazy over the last few years and getting heap in the ground and yeah, just doing a lot of cramscaping.
Cramscaping, I think that kind of speaks to it, right? Like, I mean, I think the thing that most stands out about this place is the chaos of it, right?
Yes,
you would agree, yeah?
Yes,
I'm not being unfair in saying that.
No, it's very much like that. Yeah, it's pretty chaotic.
Is that like kind of speak to your philosophy of collecting these things? Just get a bit of everything?
Yeah. And for me, I think it's kind of cool to have them en masse like this with different shapes and colours and varieties and blending them in just to kind of, give you that texture of different shapes and colours of plants. And it's kind of cool to have people come in and just get taken away and
overwhelmed.
Yeah, especially if they aren't really into the plants and they maybe don't think too much of the plants. They kind of see them in this light and they have an appreciation for them. And
I'm going to speculate for a second. I mean, I've watched you on Instagram. I see what's going on there. You strike me as someone who is big into their columnar cacti.
Yes, yeah.
Anything in particular stand out as a favourite?
I think it kind of maybe chops and changes a little bit, but I'm definitely really drawn to Pachycereus marginatus, the Mexican fence post. Yeah. I think they're just such.
Mate, they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
I could tell. I could tell.
Yeah. I think they're just such a striking plant, especially when you see big stands of them.
Yeah.
I just think they're incredible, and just the connection with them being from Mexico and used as fencing.
As fences, yeah.
I think that's just so cool, seeing some photos here and there.
It's like this interesting kind of cultural storyline behind the plant, which a lot of these things don't necessarily have, but that one's pretty well noted for it.
Yeah. Even kind of synonymous with like Frida Kahlo and
Yeah.
You know, you see some old photos of her in her garden, and there's just these big stands of marginatus.
Yeah,
there, which
it's
is kinda
interesting,
cool.
isn't it? It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
But I also like the scops too. You know,
Yeah, mate.
They're kind of one of my they're
Anything
up there too.
big and fat.
Big and fat.
Yeah, I know. There's something about it, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got a similar philosophy to me when it comes to labelling your plants.
Yes. Yeah.
You just know them.
I just across the board, I'm pretty good because I've been collecting now for about 13 years.
Yeah.
And when I first started collecting, I didn't really care too much about learning the names, but then when you go to, you know, some OG collectors, they are, you know, they get up you.
They get very, very finicky, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me now about, because you've done the gardens, right?
Yep.
And I can tell it's, like I have an impression that it's a bit of a survival of the fittest thing. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, definitely survival of the fittest, and plants that have gone in maybe they've been a bit rougher to begin with. Plants that I've just kind of accumulated from here, there and everywhere.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not good enough to sell in the shop, so I've just kind of dumped it in the ground. And 9 times out of 10, a plant that's pretty rough or on its way out, once they hit the ground, they tend to rejuvenate.
They love it, don't they? Plants just, I mean, what a surprise, plants. They like going in the ground.
I know, who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Yeah. Ever any regrets when you sell a plant?
Always, yeah. yeah. I mean, a lot of my clientele would probably know what I'm like, and sometimes they definitely have to pry the plant out of my hands, even if they paid for it.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's cool to be able to, you know, have a space like this and service the community. And I'm often giving a lot of plants away to people, and that's kind of cool to just see those plants get a bit of love, and then also it can ignite something within that person, you know. A lot of times they come back and they're like, oh, look at this little cutting you gave me 12 months ago. It's pumping now and it's doing really well. And so I get a real kick out of that. Yeah.
It's there must be a certain like joy in when people sort of start this thing off and like just, you know, start small and then it grows into an obsession, which both of us are well aware of.
Yes,
but it always starts somewhere, doesn't it?
It does, and it's cool to see it. You know, it's almost like you're this drug dealer in a way, because they'll pick one up. Maybe it's their first cactus too, and then, you know, you'll see them a month later and they're like, oh, it needs a little friend. So they pick up another one, and it's a slippery slope.
It sure is. It really is. It's a slippery slope that we're both very much stuck on, isn't it?
Yeah. Once you go down the rabbit hole, it's it's a journey.
Yeah, it sure is. All right. Fantastic. Thank you so much for hosting me today.
No worries.
I've really enjoyed looking around and exploring. And
awesome.
Mate, I'm sure I'm going to be back in a less official capacity at some point anyway.
Cool. Glad you came down. And
it's very cool.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
No worries. So I've made my choice. I'm not going home with something little today. I'm going home with this absolute beast of a scopulicola cutting. Very excited to stick this in the ground, let it put out some roots in the springtime, and I'm sure in no time whatsoever it's going to be an absolute towering specimen plant in the Arizine garden. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this place as much as I have. Fantastic, and like I said, incredibly eclectic collection. You could just spend hours digging through everything if you wanted to, and probably find a few things that I've overlooked. Anyway, I'm Michael, this is Arizine. Hope you've enjoyed the show, and I'll catch you back next Monday. I'll see you then.